Hello there. My name is Jonathan, also known as Dai Womprad Dai, and you have found Binging the Force with the Rocky Mountain Fan Force. This is a place where Star Wars friends get together, rewatch Star Wars shows, and ponder deep thoughts while we're doing it. So you can find us on Facebook at Rocky Mountain Fan Force, and you can find this show on a multitude of podcast platforms, as you can see below, and on YouTube at Binging the Force. You can also find our new merchandise store, merch, at bingingtheforce.myspreadshop.com. So I encourage you to buy a green shirt and pretend you are one of the Force Ghost Night Sisters from this Rebels episode. So there you go. I am proud to be joined today by Michael.
Hello.
Dale.
Hello there.
Howdy.
And our newcomer to Binging the Force, Christian. Welcome. So today, gentlemen, we are watching Rebels Season 3, Episode 11, entitled Visions and Voices. Why we're watching this when you ask? That's a good question. Because there's a Darksaber in it, and that relates to our overall podcast episodes that we're doing, covering lots of Star Wars TV related to Mandalorian type things. But before we get started, I have a question for our esteemed panel. So, Darth Maul, he's in this episode. He brings Ezra to his man cave with his collection of artifacts that have importance to him, right? All things on the walls and candles, and it's very, very Zen-like. So what's something that you guys have from your past that has significant meaning to you? So my ground rules are Star Wars items are allowed, if you so desire. Maybe good, maybe something that haunts your soul like it does for Darth Maul. So what is something that you have that has deep meaning to you, just like it does for Darth Maul in his cave there? So, Christian, since you are our newcomer, let's have you go first.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, thank you for calling on me, and I'm really excited to be here with some fellow Star Wars fans. I could go on and on about some of the stuff that's like behind me here with some of my Broncos paraphernalia, but that's a different podcast. But actually, I've got it says on my description I'm an Obi-Wan fan, but I don't know if I'm not holding this right. Can you see Dooku there? Oh, there we go. You guys see Dooku? So Michael actually reminded me to watch the Tales of the Jedi. And it really gave some fascinating back angle stuff, not to change the topic, but just like having little relics like this, like you're talking about, encourages you to go back and look at stuff. And I was fascinated just most recently by some of the backstory on Dooku with like Tales of the Jedi, but I guess that's also a different podcast.
Nice. So like the reference books are good for you because they help you kind of dive deeper, go back into these kind of characters as you're watching, different stuff.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, like the Ultimate Visual Guide and like the Revenge of the Sith Dictionary and stuff like that, right? Yeah.
For a second there, I thought it was a sticker book. I couldn't quite see; it was a little blurry. So that's good. There's information in there as well.
Oh no, yeah, those are some awesome books. I mean, for those who actually, I'm a big Audible fan also, right? But
nice. Yeah, it's hard to get those books at Audible.
You thought that, Jonathan, because you've got a little kid. Christian's kids are all grown up. He's now the kid in the house.
I'm actually a grandpa, even though it feels weird to say it.
Yeah, why can't we get any sticker albums on Audible? Come on.
Right? Where's all the sticker albums on
Audible? So Dale, how about you? Is it some Star Wars stickers you have that haunt your soul?
No. If I were at home, like in my collection room with the Star Wars stuff, I actually this past weekend I saw my VHS tapes of the Ewok movies, and that kind of got me thinking of collecting Star Wars during the dark times, when there wasn't a lot of merchandise. That's some older stuff. But since I'm on the road tonight, I don't have a tiny Star Wars thing with me, but I do have this tiny He-Man. So another geeky pursuit of mine.
Yeah, you are definitely the biggest He-Man fan I know. You actually go to the annual PowerCon He-Man convention.
So So yeah, even though I'm far from home, this little pocket He-Man comes with me as like a good luck charm. They, kind of reminds me of family and growing up, yeah, being a lifelong Masters Universe fan. It's definitely a relic that I kind of take everywhere. One He-Man figure or another. This is easy for travel. So
Very nice. So it's a significant meeting item. Is in Star Wars, which is fine. But could you ever imagine like a He-Man Star Wars crossover? Could that ever be a thing? That blows my mind to even consider the possibility.
I've seen some custom figures. It's kind of a weird thing. And actually, Mattel and Hasbro just signed like a licensing deal. They're going to start having each other's properties on each other's six, which is a weird concept. So like think of like a Mattel property and a Hasbro. So like Hot Wheels with My Little Pony, or Barbie with Transformers. Like that could happen now. So
All I'm saying is that's General Grievous, but could that not be Skeletor? Come on now.
there you go.
Come on now.
I mean, I
Come
can
on now.
see like Grievous and Skeletor joining forces and
Oh
things
my
going
God, that would be amazing! Like live action He-Man and Skeletor. Are you kidding me? That'd be incredible. Jesus,
That's
eight popsicle.
movie. Yeah. Michael, how about you? What's something that is your significant meaning to you item?
Well, people who know me know I'm actually anti-stuff. I'm always getting rid of things, and as opposed to many of my friends who have Star Wars rooms, who have like entire rooms and entire sections of their houses filled with toys and stuff. I don't have any of that. What I do have is I go to a lot of conventions, and a lot of kind of my memories and stuff are tied very much to fan conventions. And having been on staff at the very first, or a volunteer at the very first Star Wars Celebration, which was in Denver back in 1999. I was a volunteer there, and a lot of people have been posting like memories of that, because the anniversary of that was this week, the very first, Star Wars centric only, convention that they had here locally in Denver, Colorado at the time. As a volunteer there, we actually were given a bag with all the merchandise that people could buy. And so I do still have that. So I have the Star Wars Celebration ball cap.
Very nice.
That was definitely a limited run item that that I still have, and I've got the T-shirts, and I've got the bags and all the kind of stuff. I've got it all like in a bag, and all the flyers and everything. So that was a kind of treasured thing. An important thing, significant thing of my past was having volunteered at that first Star Wars Celebration. Kind of launched me having several years, if not decades, of involvement in conventions. So.
Michael, can I also just say, having been in your living room, that you have, in my opinion, the coolest Star Wars New Hope movie promo poster I've ever seen in my life?
Yeah, I do, like on either side of my television, because I don't have like stuffed toys or things like that, but I'm a big TV guy. So in my like 85-inch or 80-inch whatever television in the living room, I've got on either side of it, I've got a Star Trek Next Generation poster and a Star Wars original A New Hope poster. So
it's super cool. Honestly, it's the coolest Star Wars poster I've ever seen. Yeah.
Very cool.
It's actually pretty similar to my background here.
Yeah. True.
Very nice. Well, how about you, Jonathan? Well, thank you for asking. So for me, I would say it's something that haunts my soul and that I make all of my life decisions with. It's my Magic 8-Ball. So tonight, the outlook is hazy. See, that's just what I get all the time. So no, so I do have one item here. It is about 8 years old. So I have a son. His name's Logan, and he was born premature, and so his head, when it was forming, was a little off axis, right? It wasn't quite forming quite right.
You know where you're going with this, yes.
You know where I'm going with this? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember it fondly.
Oh yeah, he. So it's just something that he wore when he was a kid, and it's a helmet that we got custom made for him to help his head be shaped correctly as he was growing older. And so what I want to do was do an awesome custom paint job on it, because a friend of ours called him Red 0.5 since he's small. And so a friend of ours named Jeff, who is a previous guest's husband, Kim's husband, Jeff Rodriguez, did an awesome custom paint job. So this is the helmet that my son Logan wore when he was a child to make sure his head was growing correctly. So, of course, very Star Wars themed, and it looks just like those X-Wing pilots. So
That's wicked cool, dude. That is wicked cool.
So yeah, very cool. So it has an honored place in my collection, and it just kind of reminds me of like how fandom comes in many forms, right? So it doesn't have to be something that is Lucasfilm, Disney authorized type item, but it can be something that you kind of create on your own to show your fandom, and then you drag your kids kicking and screaming into it sometimes as well. So.
Well, Jonathan, not to drag it back to football again, because I mean the thing Michael knows me that the thing I'm the biggest fan about and the biggest geek about is football. Probably second is Star Wars. But like you were saying, people say it. It's almost a cliche. Football is family, but fandom is family, like you were just saying. So heck yeah, man. Heck yeah, total.
That's awesome. And it's a little football helmet is too. Because when he was
yep.
1.5, 2 years old wearing this.
More hockey-ish. Honestly, more hockey-ish. But
I mean, what I can't believe is looking at that. It so reminds how small it was. Like remembering that his head was that small and he wore that helmet. And now, like I saw it, we all went and saw Return of the Jedi, last Saturday together. And I saw Logan, who's now 9 years old.
He's 9 years old. Yeah.
9 years old. And I mean, and he's doing great. And you are an amazing dad to him. So yeah, that's a great reminder of that.
Yeah, that doesn't fit very well anymore. That reminds me of good times. Awesome. Well, let's dive right in here to the episode, Visions and Voices. So after last week's episode, we were kind of debriefing as a group here, and I was like, Rebels has a totally different feel than Clone Wars, right? Like these episodes are more kind of like sometimes military, sometimes spiritual, sometimes very focused on like Jedi kind of Force themes. And so, the feel of, I think our commentary kind of reflected that a little bit as well.
Yeah, and this is a big jump from last season or last week, because we were doing a season 2 episode, and now we're jumping into a season 3 where, one of the main characters, the older Jedi, the Jedi Master, was blinded. The younger Jedi, Ezra, is now has short hair. He had like very distinctive long hair before. We've got a big jump here.
Yes. So in the season in between, they've had an encounter with Maul, the second reincarnation of Darth Maul, and he is now in Ezra's head. So it's not clear to us, the viewer, is Darth Maul really there, or is he playing mind tricks somehow?
So there's some relationship that they formed where they now are kind of have a connection through the Force, and he's seen Maul, so he's seen visions of Maul there.
Yes. Does it remind anyone else of like the Cheshire Cat when he just pops up and just to mess with Alice?
Right. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, Darth Maul definitely has a similar smile for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. The way he's portrayed, particularly in Rebels more than Clone Wars, I get that totally. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Darth Maul is more of a mature person, not as like random. More kind of like deep thoughts, really kind of like centered in what it is he means to himself, and he's had a lot of time to look inwards there and figure himself out.
Yeah, and definitely a huge growth of the character. I mean, when you think back of his appearance in episode 1, he seemed basically just a guy who show up and fight. And I mean, they gave him a couple lines of dialogue to suggest that there was more of a personality there, but we didn't get to see it really until Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yes, the Maul in the animated Maul, as performed by Sam Witwer, is given so much better dialogue than the movie Maul, I guess.
Yeah,
I think he has arguably the best dialogue, like you said, in all of both Clone Wars and Rebels. I think he's particularly good dialogue, up there with Obi-Wan and Yoda and anybody. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got this
So the
seething
mission we
anger.
kind of have going on here is, I guess, like everyone else, Hera's leading the rebels to go on a mission, but kind of Kanan and Ezra have to kind of go on this kind of side quest to resolve Ezra's kind of weird issues that he's having with Darth Maul. So
Yeah, they're in this group, you know, it's an interesting dynamic, right? So like for these rebels here, recurring characters, definitely a lot of like family feel. You know, Hera's the mother, Kanan's the father. You know, Sabine is that kind of
annoying sister.
icy sister. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ezra's still
Yeah,
the younger
there
brother.
was the whole conversation there about the droid loading weapons, and he said, "This is way more weapons," and she's like, "Well, I'm doubling that. You know, it's me. You know, I'm the person in charge of weapons, and we're gonna have a lot of weapons."
Well,
And-
not
and Ezra-
that Sabine is the end all be all, but I think she really does set the tone for this episode 3.11 when she said, "I think he's taking a big risk for all of us." And I think she knows it like an annoying little sister. I think she knows it maybe even before Ezra.
Yeah, because with Ezra, he's not just, you know, an awkward teenager now. He's an awkward teenager who started to learn about the Force, but now his master is blinded. So in season 3 of Rebels, you know, they have to bring in kind of a new Force teacher because he's only going to learn so much under Kanan. But yeah, he's definitely distracted here following his encounter with Maul.
So for Ezra, it's kind of like having, you know, Kanan and Maul as the like angel and the devil on his shoulder, you know, each kind of teaching him about the Force and each treating him as an apprentice. And so he's kind of torn between the two.
And he has to find his own way. And there's an inherent tension in the whole mythos between the Jedi and the Sith, but there's also a gray area with like the gray Jedi, like Dooku, and even to some extent some of the other characters early in the show that I'm not going to get into right now. But I think that Ezra, when his hair being cut, is very symbolic. I think it's extremely symbolic. So actually, before I say anything more, I'd like to hear what the guys who run this show think about my theory of his hair. It's not coincidental in any way that his hair is cut. I think that he's going through a transition, and not to do a plot spoiler, but for those of us who've watched the whole series, we know how it ends. We know how Ezra ends. We know how heroic that is. We know his narrative arc. Isn't this a real turning point when he cuts his hair? When he's like, I mean, like, we can talk about the juvenile or young person or the typical hero's arc, but he's really going on like something coming out of the underworld into some heroic stage, like some sort of Greek play, right?
Sure.
That's
Well,
pretty deep, man.
the first seasons did Kanan have short hair?
No, he had, like Michael said, he had notably long hair, flowing, like, yeah.
He was asking about Kanan.
Oh, Kanan. No, Kanan. Oh, I'm sorry. I misheard. Kanan. Yeah, Kanan gets blinded. There's the whole
but he had
Bendu
long hair
thing.
before, so now it's kind of reversed.
Oh, right. I see what you're saying. Right.
I'd like to talk about this creature on screen right now, Bendu.
Bendu, yeah. Well,
What the heck's going on with that?
Bendu himself says that he's not the Jedi or the Sith, but he is Force sensitive. Well, what is that?
Well, he's like the wise kind of Jedi master type figure who.
But he's not Jedi. He rejects Jedi.
Well, yeah, but he's that type of figure who's like there to provide some advice, some deep insight, but not take sides. So he's just there to kind of make you think. So
it's a creature that lives on this planet, and they just go and talk to him every once in a while.
Yeah, he's like a Buddha figure.
Once, right?
Yes.
What?
Pops up when it's convenient.
He's there for the
he
plot.
does offer some insight beyond what Kanan can provide.
Okay, so they specifically came to the planet to kind of get him advice, and then Maul turned out to be on that planet.
But we before we missed, I got it. The Bendu is not some sort of alternate Yoda figure. He's not a Jedi. He's not part of the Jedi Council. He would reject the Jedi Council. The Bendu is not Jedi. He's Force sensitive, but he's not Sith and he's not Jedi, but he is Force sensitive.
Okay.
So this is Darth Maul for real. He's not an apparition or anything.
Yeah, so now we actually have Darth Maul there on the planet with them. Now, this planet is their rebel stronghold, because I guess that's the idea there, is that because we establish here that Darth Maul and Ezra have this kind of mental connection, spiritual kind of connection with each other. They each know a little bit about what each other knows, and that's why how Darth Maul knew where they were, because this was their secret hideout that the Empire doesn't know about, and so Darth Maul was able to find it because of his connection to Ezra. And what he just did was threaten them to basically say, hey, I need Ezra's help. We need to fill each other's gaps in terms of what we each know about, like, because they're each trying to find the answer to something here. And Darth Maul kind of threatens them with, hey, if you don't help me out, I now know where your rebel base is, and I can tell the Empire about it really easily. So,
right. In the Mandalorian TV show, they use the tracking fobs, but in this, it's just, hey, I can find you through the Force, kind of.
Well, yeah, Ezra was an emotional tracking fob at that point.
There you go.
So I don't know if we're supposed to wait till it shows up on the show, but is it too early to talk about the question they ask, or are we getting ahead of the? Are we supposed to wait till?
Yeah, we usually try to stick with what we're seeing on screen. Here,
I see. Okay, right. Okay, all right. Right. Okay, thank you.
There's never a good justification for going with somebody like Darth Maul. I mean, come on, you people not learned anything? Don't get in bed with the bad guys. Start down the dark path. Right?
Well, and they do tend to usually betray you. I mean, that's
yes,
it's usually how that works out. As you go along with it, thinking, okay, this is the one time I can trust them.
But are we looking at Ezra as naively being misled, or are we looking at Ezra as being a double agent who is working to uncover the secret of the Sith and to crush them?
I think he is not a double agent. I think he just makes bad decisions.
I think he's kind of emotionally going with where his interests or his needs lie. I think I think it's not that thought through either way. I think he's just kind of going forward, with what makes sense to him at the time. And what makes sense to him here is, he wants an answer to a question. Maul wants an answer to a question. So he was going along with it.
Well, I'm going to hold my tongue on his question then until we get to it.
Yeah. All right. But you made me think of Luke leaving Dagobah. Luke isn't necessarily, taking the side of Yoda and Obi-Wan or
Word. Yeah.
He's
right.
His concern is his friends.
Yeah.
Right.
He's
right.
I'm going to
exactly.
focus on this.
Exactly.
I don't care about anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Friends. That's what it boils down to. I think that's the single word for this show. Friends.
But it can make you make bad decisions. But I guess that's just a part of life, right? Like sometimes you do the right things or the wrong things, but you believe it's for the right reasons.
Well, hopefully Ezra doesn't have to lose a hand to get the lesson here.
So we're going into Darth Maul's man cave here. He's got all of his many things he says he's collected.
Right, and then where he took him, he established was Dathomir, he said the planet where he started, which I don't know if that had appeared. Had Dathomir or the witches of Dathomir, had that appeared or had that been covered?
Oh, yeah. Very much. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Clone Wars, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. It was covered in Clone Wars. Okay.
There's a whole narrative arc about where Darth Maul came from, how he was recruited, how he was trained. There's a whole backstory about him and his brother and how his brother's death motivated him and all of it. Yeah.
Okay. And then here we see the Darksaber, which he had obtained during Clone Wars. I mean, when he kind of was on Mandalore, threw a whole arc on there and had taken over Mandalore, and that's how he acquired the Darksaber from Pre Vizsla, my favorite named character.
Yeah, and there is actually a painted word that was on the wall. I was looking to see what the heck that is. Apparently it says Kenobi. So Darth Maul obsessed much? Yeah.
Well, we know that had been his quest for him was to destroy Kenobi,
Yeah.
Well, there we go with the teasers for their questions again, right?
And the guy did cut him in half, so.
Yeah.
And then we saw Kanan's helmet that I guess since his blinding, he kind of has this helmet he puts on, which has like painted eyes on it, which is a little interesting.
Right.
Hey, can someone remind me how Kanan got blinded? I'm a little rusty on that. How I remember he got blinded, but I don't remember like how. Can someone remind me real quick how that happened?
It was Maul did it.
Oh, okay.
Maul.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So
I
now
forgot
they're
that.
drinking the shared drink, and if they drink it together, then it's supposed to reconnect their minds together and fill in the gaps about each of them. And what does happen is this green glowing thing here.
Well, they're on this witch planet, and on this witch planet, within the narrative, there's actual magic, like high fantasy magic, not low fantasy magic. So within the Darth Maul wouldn't be Darth Maul if it wasn't for the magic that created Darth Maul.
So it kind of combines the kind of pseudo scientific, the Force, and Star Wars.
You do not need any new willing suspension of disbelief to accept that the witches are giving them a revelatory moment here. Okay. So their questions, I think, are extremely revelatory, are really the answers. But Ezra's question is, I want to know how to destroy the Sith. So whatever question he came here with, I think he's now validated Sabine's comment that I think he's taking a big risk for all of us when his question is, I want to know how to destroy the Sith. Because as I was watching it myself in my own emotional experience, I was like, is he naive? Is he being misled by Maul? Where are they going with this?
So it looks like the answer that they got to their questions about how to destroy the Sith. So it looks like Darth Maul learned about Tatooine, but doesn't have a name yet, a planet with twin suns. That's where he's going to go try to find Kenobi. And then Ezra learned, what did he learn? I missed it there.
He learned how to destroy the Sith, and the answer to that we find out is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
He said he's alive. That's who he's referring to.
It's alive. He's alive. He's alive. What? Wait, huh? Right.
So they get the same answer. They don't know it, even though they're synced up with the psychedelic Sith juice, and they're tapping.
Yes.
That's a good description. The man cave and the psychedelic. Wait, that reminds me of sometime when I was about 20 years old back in California in somebody's man cave with some sort of fancy juice.
Here, Kanan and Sabine have kind of done the not smart thing of following them and entered the man cave. And when they entered the man cave, they were taken over by the spirits of the Dark Sisters there.
But I don't think they're being naive. I think the way that they write it invites us to think that they're maybe just being naive and stupid. Like what's that commercial where they're like, oh yeah, we shouldn't get in the running car. We should go hide behind the chainsaws. Right. But I don't think that's what they're doing. They're being brave. They've got their friends back. Because when Darth Maul says, Ezra, this is your chance. Together we'll rule the world. And Ezra's like, but my friends.
They're not naive. They just made a bad choice.
They didn't think about the consequences of their actions.
Right.
Because when you dance with the devil like they've done, there's a price to pay. And this is the price they have to pay. Their friends get taken over, and now they have to fight them, and who's going to survive, right? That's this dilemma right here.
The altar is the source of their power. They cannot venture beyond the cave. So it kind of establishes, that Maul's like, there's an easy solution to this problem. I leave the cave. They can't kill me anymore. They can't come after me. So that's an easy one for him.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself here, but here's the line, right? I told you that's never going to happen. Forget the past. So whatever decision we're waiting for Ezra to make, here it is.
Yeah.
But it's a Sith question, right? Or maybe a little bit Jedi. I forget your attachments, but still, it's like it's not approaching a solution to this problem that they have right now of his friends being possessed in a way that a Jedi would approach it.
Yeah, the parallel there.
Light side person, good person.
Yeah, the parallel there between Jedi and Sith. I mean, it's the same thing. Is don't be tempted by your feelings. Don't be tempted by your friendships. Don't be tempted by your attachments. That's the same thing that the Jedi were cautioning against.
See, if Darth Maul was smart, he would have helped him help out his friends to be released, and then maybe Ezra would have been more on Darth Maul's side. Instead, Darth Maul's like, I'm out.
But that's not what Sith do. Jonathan, you're right. I agree with you. That's what you or I would do, but that's not what Sith do, because Sith only think of themselves, and Jedi only think of their code. And I think what I find most fascinating about Ezra is somehow, in some way, he finds almost a unique path in the whole Star Wars ethos.
Yeah. So we've
Up
got
there with Ahsoka.
Dark Saber.
Dark Saber alert.
Have the Dark Saber signal go off.
So we missed the line where when he walks in, they say, "You were unwise to re-enter our sanctuary." And here's my big thesis. He absolutely was. And maybe it was all a mistake, Michael. I agree with you. I don't think Ezra planned it. It's not like some CIA con game, and I don't think his friends planned it. But somehow the Force made it happen, right? But if the friends hadn't been there, he'd be screwed. Can I say that?
Yeah.
And if he wasn't there, they would have been screwed.
Yeah.
But that's why it's about friends.
Yeah. Totally. Yep. So he freed Sabine. He got Sabine out, and he basically had to drag her out. He used the Force and actually dragged her out of the cave to save her, so that as soon as she was dragged out of the cave, then the spirit came out of her. But then Kanan's still there, and Kanan's still being taken over by one of the Night Sisters at the moment.
Right. Kind of like Last Crusade. Like you can't take the crest or the cup past the crest, otherwise
Right.
it falls apart. So, can't take the Night Sister out too far. Breaks.
Yeah, the power gets stopped at the threshold. It's kind of a reverse vampire.
Yeah.
Vampire can't enter, the Night Sisters can't leave.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting how Maul was like so dead set on Ezra joining up with him.
Yeah.
And then when Ezra rejects him, he's just like, okay, I'm out. Because previously, like Maul, we would have seen some more rage there, some violence. And he was just like, okay, fine. You stay here. I'm going to go on my pursuit of Kenobi now.
You belong to us, boy. Yeah,
Jonathan, I agree with you, Jonathan. I think that Darth Maul, like we said earlier, he's obsessed. He's consumed with his rage for Kenobi, which is consistent with a Sith Lord.
So he used both.
Or wannabe Sith Lord.
He used his lightsaber and he used the dark saber, since he's holding both, and he actually used them to destroy their kind of source of their power there, the altar, and that was the destruction of it. Was using both weapons, a Jedi weapon and a Mandalorian weapon there.
But now where'd all those ghosts go?
It's not really, to me, it's not really a convincing narrative. It's pretty much a Deus Ex Machina that they just pull on us, and they basically write it off to Ezra saying, "I'm going to have to owe you one," like a typical action movie, and it's okay. But I mean, it's just.
It's a 20-minute solution. It's a 20-minute solution to a 2-year problem.
So
I
should
think
say
that,
like Arnold Schwarzenegger, is that saying, "I'll have to owe you one"?
Yeah, I have to owe you one. Yeah, get to the chopper. Get to the chopper.
And then I love this kind of holding back the revelation about what's the planet with the two suns. It's like, we've all seen Star Wars. We know it's always about Tatooine. They always go back to Tatooine. How is Darth Maul the only person that doesn't recognize that it's Tatooine? And he's been to Tatooine.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's not just, but Michael, it's not just Darth Maul, because Sabine, when she's told that it's the planet with two suns,
here's how Sabine gets the dark saber.
and Sabine says, "Well, that doesn't narrow it down, does it?" Even though we know as an audience, but even Sabine doesn't. Well, that doesn't narrow it down.
Yeah, but
it's like a throwaway line.
Yeah,
I mean, it's literally the planet where he last saw Obi-Wan. Well, no, I guess the last time he saw Obi-Wan was on the ship or whatever. But
Naboo, yeah,
Naboo. But I mean, it's where he encountered him the first time. But so the important thing there at the end, and the whole point of for us, kind of going through this is that's how Sabine procures the darksaber at that point.
So for the one or two people in the audience who might be confused about the difference between Obi-Wan's girlfriend and Ezra's little sister, can I just say before we end, I've got a little mnemonic memory device to help keep it in mind, okay? So don't accuse me of being a creeper, because we're talking about an animated drawing, but Sabine be fine, but Satine be queen. You know what I mean? Because she's Obi-Wan's fling. I'm done.
Gonna mic drop out. Well, thank you, Christian. Well, we did see at the end here, Sabine does hesitantly pick up that Darksaber. She's got it. The lineage of it is continues. It gets back into Mandalorian hands. And we learned a little bit about one of our previous episodes here about her pedigree when it comes to the Mandalorian family tree. And I think that the Darksaber's storyline continues in Rebels, if I remember correctly. Is that right, Dale?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've definitely got several more
weeks.
episodes of Darksaber.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's funny, granted, we've all seen the Mandalorian TV series now, and there's more rules we didn't know about how the Darksaber moves one person to another. But for Sabine to just come across it like that, it's her lucky day. Right place, right time.
Guys, I have a question for you guys. Is that the first time we ever see the Darksaber? Or we've seen it before, but I mean in Rebels. In Rebels, is that the first time we see the Darksaber in Rebels?
Yes.
Not Clone Wars, right? I don't remember it in Clone Wars. It's only in Rebels,
it's
right?
extensively in Clone Wars, yeah.
It is in Clone Wars also?
Oh, quite a bit, yes.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I honestly get Rebels and Clone Wars so fuzzy in my head. I can't remember what I saw and what. But
yeah, no. When we just did a whole run of episodes of Mandalorian centric episodes in Clone Wars, and it features prominently through all of them.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah. So she's got it. So we'll continue our binging the Force of more Darksaber Mandalorian type interactions with our Rebels heroes. And
what do we think about? I mean, the whole kind of this episode. I mean, the whole mysticism and Darth Maul and the sisters, and kind of any. I mean, I know we talked about it pretty extensively throughout the episode, but I mean, any kind of more about that. Any more thoughts about that?
Well, I just want to say that the sisters' magic is not the Force. That's all I have to say. The sisters' magic is magic. It's different from the Force.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think Rebels didn't really deal too much in magic. It was, Ezra with the Force, and then the bigger conflict with the Empire and the rebellion against the Empire. But the magic stuff is really a one-off for this series. So was it out of place? Maybe.
Right. No.
But because I think having Darth Maul in this series or Maul was kind of an afterthought, like this series without Maul. But it is interesting how they use him and the Sith magic, which they reference all the way to talk about magic. So just when you think it's not important, he comes back.
The hotel finally failed you, Dale.
To me, Clone Wars and Rebels without Darth Maul would be like Mel Nevin without the Blue Notes. If y'all appreciate my Snoop Dogg reference.
Not really.
Well, y'all got to go back and listen. Okay, this isn't a hip hop episode, but woman, you ain't gonna be nothing without me. Like Mel Nevin without the Blue Notes. Clone Wars and Rebels without Darth Maul would be B+. I wouldn't recommend it to my friends. I wouldn't rave about it. I wouldn't take time tonight to be on this show.
Well, I would definitely say Sam Witwer's performance is amazing as Maul. I mean, I think what he brought to the character and the kind of richness and depth that he brought to the character, really took it to a whole nother level. And the way that they used him and really explored his character.
I agree with you 100%, Michael, that the performance is outstanding, but I'm also arguing that from a purely structural literary narrative situation, Darth Maul is integral to the Clone Wars Rebels narrative arc, all of it, he's not a subplot, he's integral to the entire narrative arc of the whole series, and there is no Darth Maul without the planet of the Witch Sisters.
Dathomir.
Yeah, I think that Rebels did a lot of things well. It introduced us to these new set of characters, and it broadened that time period between kind of like the formation of the Empire there, right, between 3 and 4. Because the first season is mainly about the rebels, on the planet, and then expanded, to more galaxy wide rebels connecting with other cells. But then, there is kind of like that. It's almost a B plot of Jedi and how do they fit into this galaxy at this time, right? And you get to see that through Kanan and Ezra and their interactions. And one of these interactions is Darth Maul, who's still around after Clone Wars, right? Let's do our best to kind of wrap up his storyline. And I think this is a good way to do it by having him be messing with Ezra's mind. And, because that's what Maul does best, right, is this manipulation. And so one of the best episodes, in my opinion, of Rebels is the one that I don't think we're going to cover it, but it is the one where Darth Maul goes to Tatooine and has his confrontation with Obi-Wan Kenobi. If you have not seen that one, I highly recommend it.
Well, I think at some point we'll probably do the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and that would be a good time to kind of do that Rebels episode.
Perfect. And it would fit in well there as well. And so that is like almost the exact kind of perfect way that I think that Dave Filoni created this ending point for Darth Maul and his storyline in that episode. So I appreciate what the Filoniverse has done with Jedi, with Rebels, and with kind of bringing more to Darth Maul as a character when it comes to not just regretting what's happened to him, but mixing it up with the Mandalorians and then being a part of this Rebels show.
The other one I would recommend, Jonathan, is going back to the origin story of Darth Maul with his brother and the way that he's recruited. I'll leave it at that. That's a whole deep dive. You guys know what I'm talking about. But I think that's a really outstanding episode about him and his brother and how that motivates his whole psychology and all of that.
I think a Darth Maul set of episodes would be a cool idea too.
I mean, just as a fanboy.
Absolutely. I think when we spend more time with Clone Wars and Rebels, those are must-watch episodes because Clone Wars was kind of slow going the first 2 seasons, but once they brought Maul back season 3, like there was no looking back. The rest of the series was, and then so to get to see more of his character, kind of some of his last stories being incorporated into Rebels, it was good timing, I guess, that worked out.
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
Exactly, Dale. I mean, because to me, I actually was like a pretty, I'll say, normal Star Wars fan, like a lot of people who haven't watched a lot of Star Wars of the animated stuff, like we're talking about in this. I was like your typical Star Wars fan. I consider myself a big fan, but I'd only seen the movies. And my buddy told me that I should go watch Clone Wars, and it took him a lot of effort to convince me to do it because it was animated. But I finally did, and I totally agree, Dale. You nailed it. It was a little bit slow, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of interesting. But when it got to Darth Maul, I was like, boom! That's when it got live. I mean, to me, at least.
Sure.
Yeah, the one thing I love to say about Star Wars is that it's a menu in a restaurant, right? You don't have to eat everything there. You don't have to consume all the Star Wars. You find what you like, and you enjoy that. And if you want to bring home some leftovers and give it to somebody else, you're totally welcome to do so.
Good analogy.
Good note.
Good analogy.
And I know this episode didn't go too much into Mandalorian and Darksaber and that culture as the next 2 weeks go. But what did you think about how Ezra just left the Darksaber behind because it meant nothing to him, just like Din. When Din acquires the Darksaber, it doesn't mean anything to him. So for some people, it's like, this means power. And for others, it's just like, that's just some weapon. I don't know how to use it.
Yeah. I mean, when you have status symbols like that, symbols of power, it depends on if you're a part of that group or that culture, that it does mean something to. And so for Ezra, he's like, I know this means something to you, Sabine. So here you go.
Yeah, I think Ezra is not seeking power. So yeah, I mean, even if he did know that that's what it represented, it's that is not his focus. That is not what he's seeking at that point. And same thing for Din.
Well, that is an excellent segue to next week. Hope you will join us here on Binging the Force when we cover Season 3, Episode 15, Trials of the Darksaber, as we continue our Mandalorian-themed Rebels episodes. So, you watching audience out there, if you are interested in learning more about the Rocky Mountain Fan Force, check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/Rocky Mountain Fan Force. And when it comes to meeting us in person, if you so desire, we'll be having a meeting in May. We'll finalize some details about that, but you can find information about it on said Facebook page. So thank you, Christian, for joining us. Thank you, Darth Vader Book, for joining us. And thank you all out there for tuning in. May the Force be with you.
Thank you to our live Facebook and Twitch viewers. We actually had a few. So,
Yay.
Yep.
See you next time.
Bye, everybody.
See y'all next week.